Batman the Detective by DC Comics. This is issue number 1 of 6. And I believe this is just a Elseworld non-canon miniseries. It has nothing to do with the actual ongoing stuff. So yeah, this is really heavily influenced by The Dark Knight. I mean, it's not as dark and gritty yet, but yeah, we have an older Batman, an older Bruce Wayne who's kind of beaten and broken down. Alfred is dead. His family has left him. I'm assuming the Bat family. So he's kind of solo. And yeah, he decided that he kind of needs a change. So before we get to him, we start off in England on a plane where we have one of the flight attendants counting all the passengers. And when she does, she puts on a white bat mask. And they basically blow up the plane before her and her colleague jump out. So that was kind of weird how they waited until the explosion before jumping out. You would think like, hey, just open up the door, jump, and then blow it up. Because what if like the explosion takes out more of the plane and ends up taking you out? What if the explosion sucks you out when you're not ready? Or I don't know. It just seems kind of weird, but whatever. So anyways, before they can make their escape, they get attacked by Beryl Hutchinson, aka Knights. I have no idea who this is. I don't follow the Batman series, really. I never really followed Batman. Like, even with Rebirth, Batman was like one of the series I didn't come back to. And that's just because Tom King sucks as a writer. And I absolutely hate what he does with male characters. He, like, cucks them so hard. So, yeah. For anyone who's, like, wondering, like, why are you mentioning Rebirth? It's because when I got back into comics, it was because of Rebirth. And Rebirth was what I focused on. Before, when I used to read comics, this was when I was like a kid. I used to read comics, when I was like 10 or whatever. So that's like 20 years ago that I read comics. And even then, I mostly stuck to Marvel. I did read like the occasional Batman, mostly the Nightfall, but that was it. Like, my only other knowledge from Batman is from the animated series, which was really awesome. Then again, a lot of the comic book cartoons from back then were so awesome. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, X-Men. I think it's because they try to stay as faithful to the characters in comics as they could. Obviously, they kind of toned it down a bit to make it more child-friendly. And like, they even like directly took story arcs from the comics. In some cases, like X-Men, they try to directly copy the art style. Like, they treated the characters and the fans who love the comics with respect, which we don't really get nowadays. But I'm kind of going off on another topic. So yeah, Beryl fights him for a while. Saying Beryl just sounds weird. I'm just gonna call her Knight. So Knight fights him for a while. They grab her and throw her off the plane with her, and she's able to grab the male terrorist, I guess. And she tries to open up the parachute, doesn't really open, and they crash to the floor, and she somehow survives. Don't ask me how, because the parachute didn't slow him down. Like, if you actually look at the panels, the parachute doesn't like open, and it kind of slows them for a bit just before they hit the ground, which would have made like a bit more sense for her survival if that happened. Like, like maybe like not at the last second, but as they're getting close to the ground, the parachute opens, and it's enough to kind of slow the trajectory, but they're still going too fast to not sustain any injuries. But no, the parachute doesn't open at all, and she basically lands on the guy. So the guy, I'm assuming, is dead. She's still survived. I'm like, I know people have like fallen out of planes without parachutes and survived, but they're so rare, and I don't know. You're kind of suspending my disbelief a bit here, especially since afterwards the female terrorist shoots her. So Barrow's on the floor. The female terrorist shows up and shoots her point blank with the gun, and yet Knight still survives. And I'm like, really? Is this girl just a bad shot? I guess it makes sense because later on, when we see more of her team, more of these terrorists, they are basically like stormtroopers or like Cobra from G.I. Joe. Like, their aim is just terrible. But yeah, so Knight fell out of a plane with no parachute, hit the ground. I mean, yeah, she landed on another person, but she still hit the ground without a parachute. And then she got shot point blank and survived. Okay. Anyways, the plane that they were on crashes and everybody dies. And they write a message, Batman 147. And then we cut to Batman. He's all sad and depressed and broody, more so than normal. That's one of the reasons I never got into Batman. He's just too freaking dramatic and just depressing. I don't really care for those kind of characters. Like, I don't mind some grittiness and stuff like that, but I don't really care for characters who just like don't ever smile. But yeah, he kind of just talks about what I mentioned earlier, how his family left him, or they're gone. I don't know if they left him or what, but they're gone. Alfred is dead. The mansion it feels too big for him, so he leaves. He packs his bag and he shows up to the crash site. So yeah, he has a new costume with the trench coat, looking a little Dark Knight-ish, and he's basically setting up equipment to run scans of the area, looking for like fingerprints, hair molecules, all that kind of stuff. And he meets this new girl. She's like the new squire. I guess she's helping Knight. So she's like Knight's Robin. And yeah, as he's doing that, he gets attacked by a ghost. And he puts on gloves that apparently John Constantine won in a poker game and gave to him. And yeah, Batman fights a ghost. And I'm just kind of thinking, like, I thought this was called Batman the Detective. Where's the actual detective work? And then I know you might say, well, I mean, he's scanning for fingerprints and stuff. I would have liked if he was more hands-on with that. It's more like he just kind of pulls out a staff and he just sticks it on the ground and then it just starts doing everything on its own. So Batman is kind of half-assing his detective work in the sense that, like, I mean, the detective work is still getting done, but he's not really doing any of it. Instead, while the machines are doing all the detective work for him, he's fighting a ghost with his bare fist. I'm just like, all right, whatever. I got this issue like thinking like, oh, Batman, the detective. That means it's got to be focusing on his detectiving, right? Like it's detective work. And that's the one thing like I've always been. I haven't been the biggest fan of Batman, but I don't hate him. And the one aspect that I really like with the Arkham games. Like I love the Arkham games, and my favorite aspect of the Arkham games is when you get to actually do detective work. Even the Batman Telltale games, they were okay. I didn't really care for the Telltale games too much, but I did like the detective scenes where like you had to basically look over a crime scene and piece things together. Like that was always cool. I was thinking maybe that's what this would be. Like if DC for whatever reason ever came and knocked on my door and they were like, Pirate, we want you to write a Batman series. The very first thing I would do is like, all right, I'm gonna make Batman. I'm gonna make the detective like the big aspect of my Batman series. Like my series would basically be like, there's some kind of like crime goes down, and then Batman spends most of the issue like trying to gather clues and evidence and piece things together and trying to make a connection. And then at the end, he finds near the end of the issue, he discovers, okay, all these clues are leading here, and then he goes there, finds the criminal, and then that's when we get the actual action scenes with Batman fighting them. There we go. Something like that. But basically, I'll make the detective part of the big aspect because, I mean, Batman first started in Detective Comic. He started off kind of like as the Shadow character, the Shadow kind of meets Sherlock Holmes, that kind of thing. He's supposed to be a detective. He's the world's greatest detective, but he never really does any detective work. Or like when they do detective work, it's really just kind of like half-assed. It's really just like him like pounding on the keyboard. He's like, all right, here's some schematics. All right, blah, 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 blah. Done. And it's like, I want like more like old school, like showing up to the crime scene, gathering evidence. Maybe he goes back to his lair and then he starts typing on the keyboard, like looking at like newspaper clippings or whatever, trying to piece things together like a puzzle. Basically, more Sherlock Holmes and less, running out fighting crime with my bare fists kind of thing. That's what I would have done, and that's what I was hoping this would be. But no, he just fights a ghost with his bare fists. And then, later on, he meets Knight, and he gets attacked by the group of terrorists. And even though they're point blank with him, point blank range, and there's 4 of them, and they all have machine guns, none of them can hit him because they all suck at aiming. And yeah, so he like fights them and stuff like that. I'm not gonna spoil everything, but let's just say that these terrorist groups are specifically targeting Batman, and they're trying to undo all the good he's done. I'll leave it at that. If you guys want to know exactly what I'm talking about, you guys can read the issue yourself because I don't want to spoil it. I will say that even though it seems like I've been kind of nagging on this issue, I did like it. I thought it was good. The artwork's pretty decent and good. The writing, it's not that bad. I mean, you got a broody kind of, Batman who's kind of doing the whole lone wolf shtick, even though he has, Knight and her squire. The writing is still fine. Yeah, obviously, I would say that I wish that it did more detective and less fighting. Like more detective work, less Batman fighting ghosts with his hands. I was gonna say bare hands, but he's wearing gloves. But I guess less Batman punching ghosts and fighting terrorists with his hands and feet and stuff, and more detective work. Actual detective work rather than just he has a gadget that does everything for him. Like that would have been nice. Like instead, like we literally have him. Like I said, he uses like a staff basically. It almost looks like it's like a little almost like a camera on the tripod kind of thing, and that scans the area and it does all the detectiving for him. And then later on, when he's trying to make the connection between these terrorists and what they have with him, he just kind of typed something on this computer and he said, "Oh, I had the computer scanning. You know, as soon as you were taken to this hospital, I had them scanning all the database and stuff like that." So it's like all the detective stuff seems to be happening like behind the scenes. Like the connections he's made with the terrorists to him happen kind of off camera while he's busy fighting the terrorists. The computer is doing all the work for him. When he's trying to gather clues at the crash site, the gadget's doing everything for him. Meanwhile, he's fighting a ghost with his fists. So it's kind of like everyone else is doing the detective work for him. Or I should say the gadgets are doing the detective work for him. And he's just kind of fighting while all the actual detectiving is going on. Yeah, I mean, I would give it a 7 out of 10. Like that's not enough to like bring this issue down. Like it's good. Like if I was like grading it, like with a grade, it would be like a B. So I mean, it was enjoyable. It was a fun read. The art's good. I have no complaints about it. Writing's fine. It's just my nitpick of don't put the detective in your title if you're not going to have Batman really doing detective work. Like if all the detective kind of happens off panel while Batman's fighting, then maybe just put Batman the fighter. you know, Batman the ghost puncher or something. Cause yeah, like Batman's fighting while gadgets are doing all the detectiving. That kind of sucked. But again, like I did enjoy the issue. I just would have wanted more detective stuff. But anyways, that was Batman the Detective. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me what you guys think. What you guys think of the video. What you guys think of the comic. If you guys have read it. What are you guys' thoughts? Do you guys... Here's a question I would like to, for you guys to answer. When it comes to the Batman, what do you guys like more? Do you guys like the Batman who goes around fighting crime and stuff like that? Or do you like more of the detective aspects? If they were going to do a new Batman series, would you like if they did more detectiving, or do you prefer just more of him, fighting criminals? And then like the formula before was always like he would go and fight a new criminal, the criminal would beat him, and then Batman was like, oh, this criminal uses this, so I gotta overcome it with this. So he would create a new suit or a new gadget that overcomes that, and then he fights the criminal for a second time and beats them. That is usually the formula. I kind of wish that they would kind of drop that and just focus more on a bit detective. Like have like 3/4 of it be actual detective work and then 1/4 of it be actual fighting. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, tell me what you guys think. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later. So what did you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, hit that bell for a notification, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.